Good afternoon, everyone. Mary Sloane here with another episode of Inspirational Influencer News, secrets of people making money and making a difference. And our guest this afternoon, Claudia-Sam, I'm going to just leave the middle name there, is one of those people who is truly making a difference. As your soul connection coach, Claudia-Sam supports passionate leaders and guides who've lost sense of their purpose and who want the confidence to share their passions with the world. Using her tune-in method, she helps them to put themselves at the top of their to-do list. Isn't that great? Without taking more time. This includes ditching the self-care guilt, creating a deeper connection with their higher self, and flexing their soul connection muscle so that they can be their own inner guides to fulfillment and happiness now. Claudia-Sam is a present moment paddleboard lover who is French Canadian, living, not yet, but wants to be. So it's great that she's told me she's living in New Zealand. And when we talked about her being on the show, she expected to be. So we'll let her tell us why she's not there and where she is instead. And she has lived and traveled all over the world. I love world travelers. I've been fortunate enough to live in a lot of places too, so I love traveling. Anyway, tell us, what is the one thing that you really want to make sure that our listeners take away from the show today?
Hi, Mary. I mean, come on, there's so many things. Narrowing it down, I guess, would be the sentence I love to say, and it is also the name of my free Facebook group. It's called You Have It in You. And all the answers, all the clarity, the guidance, it's already in you. So whatever seems to be blocking your way forward or your success, actually, you are the key. You are the person who can unlock it. It takes willingness. And that's what we perhaps get to discuss today.
Great. So where do people start?
Where do you start? Well, thanks, Mary. First, I would say recognizing that there's something that's not working. Like, oh, wait a minute. I seem to be going around in circles here. What's happening? That kind of awareness that makes you feel like something is off. You're falling off track. You might not feel in alignment. That kind of indication and acknowledgement that actually things are not going as smooth. And I'm happy to share some examples if that would help.
Oh, yeah, for sure. People love examples. Let's see
Thank you.
Where it fits in their world,
For example, if you find yourself laying in bed at night and going over your to-do list mentally, and you don't sleep well, so you wake up tired at the end of the week, you're just actually looking for the weekend and you're exhausted. And then all of a sudden you get sick. And then the cycle goes again. And then 3 months later, this happens again and you get sick and you get sick. Well, this is an indication. Your body is telling you, hello, I would love your attention. Hello, it's time to slow down. And so the acknowledgement that actually I'm not sleeping well, I'd like to sleep better. For example, hey, I'm sitting in bed overthinking. I don't want to overthink. I want to be peaceful and calm, and I want to be in the present moment instead of in the past or the future. So noticing that the mind is taken like a downward spiral would be a great way to acknowledge that you've, fallen out of alignment. Another indication that you get to open up the doors to your inner world can be things like you only see problems after problems after problem. And A Course in Miracles says that actually the only problem that exists is the disconnection from God, the separation from the truth, the separation from love and light. And so if we are stuck in problems, that can also be an indicator that, wait a minute, I might be in my own way here. There might be another door that I can open. And those are just some, 3 simple, I think, examples.
Well, you mentioned alignment. Maybe you'd like to deepen that so that we all understand that and are on the same wavelength with respect to that, which might be alignment.
Yeah. So for me, specifically for me, alignment is when my head and my heart A little bit like the neck for the physical body. The neck connects the lower body, the shoulders down and the chin up. The neck is also the channel between the upper chakras and the lower chakras in the energy body. Anything that connects the soul and the ego, anything that connects light and darkness, those two forces, the connection piece between doing and being. In other words, balance can also be a word that can be used to find the balance, the equilibrium between being the human that we are and the soul that's in the human body for the human experience. So for me personally, alignment is when I go, oh, wait, I'm doing too much. I'm stuck in overthinking. I am entertaining stories that keep me in overwhelm. I am out of alignment because I'm not feeling peaceful and calm inside of me. So I'm noticing that. And then I try to come back to alignment, which has me find the balance between meditating all day and actually showing up in the world and sharing my mission with the world and that passion. So, we're a human being and we do things, we take actions. We can use the mind as a tool. And when we're too stuck in it, we make decisions based on what makes sense. We use logic, we fall off track, and then we wonder why we're not happy because we didn't listen to our intuition. Okay, that was very blunt.
Oh, you mean we should be human beings and not human doings?
Mm-hmm. You said it.
I think that, there's wisdom in that, and yet it's hard. It's not as easy as saying it. Saying it is easy, but sometimes to get into that place, at least I struggle frequently, because I'm always going, oh, what should I do next? What else needs to be done? And my mind is racing. And I forget where I wanted to go. I'm just kind of like, what's the next step? Where's my to-do list? What have I missed?
Yes, that's almost like a train. Imagine going on vacation. We were talking about travel at the beginning, and imagine going on a train that never stops. Like at some point, they're going to run out of goodies to give you. At some point, you're going to start feeling like you can't walk straight, and then you're going to feel like you're going nowhere and it's never ending. Well, when we're always stuck in that doing energy, in the to-do list, it's almost like living for a facade, living for the shoulds, living for what we think is the right thing to do. And that has us live externally. It has us show up to show instead of show up to be as you are, without preventing that truth to come out. We can use sometimes the term expressing yourself instead of shutting down emotions, for example, really stepping up, using your voice, saying what's on your heart, instead of, for example, saying yes to things that drain you. You get to say yes to things that uplift you instead. That is one of the keys to living in alignment, respecting what feels good to you instead of just showing up to show so that other people's are happy according to you.
So I just accept what is and be confident.
Well, it sounds easy. Thank you for, it's not, okay. Acceptance is a perfect component to this. And we get to decide as human beings if the work to tune into who we are is hard or if it's easy. It's a choice. The energy of hard it's not easier to be in than the energy of ease. So if we decide, actually, it's easy to recognize when I'm out of alignment. It's easy to recognize and choose to be in alignment. It's easy. When you make the decision and you don't entertain the low vibe thoughts that keep the loop and the spiraling down happen, when you make the decision that it is easy, there is no other way than for it to be easy. So we can say it's hard work. It's courageous work. Could we change that word maybe to it's courageous work? When you wake up in the morning, you can choose, am I going to choose that it's hard today, or am I going to choose to move through what feels hard with courage, because I'm here to embody that version of me with inner confidence. I'm here to shine my light in the world. And I know that's what you do too, Mary. So yeah, what do you think of courage instead of hard?
That sounds good. I mean,
Great.
first of all, it would be an empowering word,
Mm,
because I think that we all want courage. And if we could feel courageous, and acknowledge ourselves for the courage that we have. And in fact, most of us have stepped off the path of having an employer and said, I can do this without an employer. So, I mean, that's a courageous choice. And to acknowledge that and say, I have the courage and I can choose. And I think, as we were talking before, you said one of the things that challenges people sometimes is getting to trust themselves, or getting to trust the signals that come in, that say, this is okay, or this is the path. Or, you know, I mean, we were talking about, spiritual practices, and I just try to stay in an attitude of gratitude. And so, but that's not always, I don't want to say hard. That's not always easy or hard. That's not always, that's not what always comes to mind first. It's
mm.
kind of like, well, but I should. I
Yes, thank
should.
you for pointing that out. The word that I want to bring to our conversation is practice. Just like you would go to yoga and they would, teach you how to do a downward facing dog, an inverted V shape. And at the beginning, your legs might be really bent and the arms open and just no space between the shoulder blades. And it might feel really hard to be upside down like that, and your feet and your hands both at the same time on the earth. It might be really uncomfortable. And the more you try, the more you breathe, the more you make space, the more you're graceful and kind with yourself, and that you release judgment of where you're at in the pose because it's a practice, the more you'll be able to enjoy it, the more free you'll feel in it. So when it comes to trusting yourself, trusting the inner nudges, the first step I mentioned is willingness. When you are willing to acknowledge it, even if it's hands up in the air and saying, I am willing to receive the messages. I am willing. Willingness opens the door. Do you ever get a question answered when you don't ask the question? You might have the energy of willingness to receive without asking the question, and then someone will say it in the classroom, and then you'll go, oh, that's what I wanted to know. Because it came from a deep place of, I'm going to know the answer, or a trust that the answer was coming, instead of just not asking the question at all. And I consistently have these conversations with the women I work with. And for example, today I was on a call with a new client, and she said that what is hard for her, is to believe that a peaceful, aligned, and calm life is possible for her. She has the willingness to believe that it's possible, but the actual belief, she said, yeah, someone can have that life. You can have that life. You have that life. Yes. And can you? Do you believe that you can? And she said, I don't know. I don't think so. So belief in ourselves is a key component that we get to work on, so that you get there, so that the dimmer light actually turns on slightly, just a centimeter by centimeter, just a little bit at a time. And around the trust piece, we don't need to hold so tightly on how to do things. So for example, an indication that you're not trusting is when you're always looking at your to-do list and holding the energy of, but how will this work? How? I need this to happen. Otherwise, I'm going to fail. Otherwise, it's going to mean I'm a bad person. Otherwise, I'm not going to do the right thing. That is the opposite of trusting. That's trying to control. That's trying to prove. That's pushing energy. And it's okay. If you acknowledge that that's what you're in, great. And trust would be, okay, wow, how? I don't know where the answer is going to come from, but it has to come. That is an energy of trust. Does that resonate with you?
Yes, and it gives me a whole sense of, when you lay out a plan, instead of asking, how am I going to do this? Just know that you are going to do this, because that's, sort of like going on a trip. And if you've gone on a trip and you know that you got on the road and your car's functioning and everything's going along, you are going to get to the destination that you decided on. You aren't necessarily sure how you're going to get there, because roads can break and accidents can happen and strange things can befall. But that doesn't mean that you aren't going to get there. It just means that the route that you imagine might have to change.
Yes. Thank you, Mary. And I think that here also we could continue the conversation in the intuitive inner knowing, those inner nudges that could have you decide where you're going. If you are choosing from a place of a place of control, of a place of, I need to make X amount of money. So because I need to make X amount of money, I'm going to go and follow these strategies told by other people because it works for them, which could work for you too. There's an energy to that. It's the same external kind of head energy. Oh, that looks like it makes sense. And could the decision of where to go on this trip, on this road trip, could this decision also come from a place of, wow, this lights me up. Oh my gosh, it's so exciting to do this strategy. Ooh, what if I did this instead? How much fun would it be if I collaborated with that person and that person? The energy behind both of these road trips gives us a different destination. And so the decision gets to be made from a place of, you have it in you, from a place of intuition, from a place of the heart. And that's where you can listen and tune into all those inner indications or outer indications like, hey, I'm not sleeping, to tell you I'm falling off track here. I'm about to keep making decisions from the head here. Hasn't proven to work for me. So wait a minute, let me change the course of my direction here and tune in.
So rejig the plan for how I'm going to get there to, I'm going to get there and I'm comfortable taking the first step.
And I trust myself to do it. I trust that it's up to me. I believe in my mission and in why I'm here so much that I am going to take the next step, in the sense of, I'm going to take responsibility here. I'm not going to, some people will tell me, how do you manifest? I've been saying to the universe and then nothing happens. Well, it's a co-creation. It's not just you sit back, cross your arms, and the universe will do its job. You get to keep coming into alignment and entertaining these high-level thoughts of trust. Entertaining the, wait a minute, I'm going to use the acknowledgement of, I'm about to say yes to something to which I want to say no. I'm going to use this as acknowledgement and make a decision to then change the course of my life and how I live my life and how I impact other people.
Interesting. And not necessarily feeling intuitive in the first moments, I mean, it's like, I can speak for myself. Immediately, my thought is, I'm going to get this wrong.
Thank you. And I think this is like a collective habit of this is part of our title for our talk today, of how the fear of judgment from others can totally be a block to our success. And it starts with these questions. Am I doing it right? And yet, who's the judge of what we're doing it right? Like, where's the meter of how to write a perfect email, or according to who? Because if it's not from a trusting, aligned energy, regardless of the strategy of the email, it doesn't have the same energy. It doesn't land the same way. I've been having more success in my business writing emails from the heart without a strategy of making sure that I hit all the points that I learned in business marketing, because it comes from my heart and because I believe in what I'm sharing, because it's a story heart-based that I'm sharing. And my gosh, it just is working way better. It's landing better. So when we ask the question, am I doing it right? And P.S., I'm also sometimes, up until now anyway, I have asked that question so many times. I remember going to my coach and being like, I just want to make sure I'm doing it right. And she would keep course correcting and helping me recognize that actually this type of language is not supporting my manifestation. It's not supporting my success. It's only it's almost like taking a comparison energy and trying to make decisions from it. So the am I doing it right piece to me is, okay, well, who are you comparing yourself to?
And who decided?
And who decided? Yeah. And it's so okay that it's there. Like, I have a lot of clients who come to me and they say, if I am at this place of peace and calm and happiness, and I feel just so aligned and no anxiety, well, what will people think about me? I will lose friends, and friendships they'll be gone.
Oh gosh.
That is a fear. That is a big fear. So if that fear is there for you, that it's like, oh my gosh, but what if I lose these people in my life? The nice way to say it in this moment is that these people might not be serving your soul self. And I forget who said that. And I wish I could quote the person. And I'm going to energetically send high vibe gratitude to this person. Some people in life are like the parts of a rocket that detach from the rocket when you reach a certain altitude. Well, when the space rocket reaches a certain altitude, and then it detaches. So some people are there to support us through our journey until a certain level of the atmosphere, and then they detach. And I thought that was so brilliant.
Oh, that's cool.
Because,
yeah.
Right? Isn't it so powerful to think that you can decide to hold on to these relationships that might not be serving you? Like, what if being your true self was helping them to be their true self? What if you attracted more people in your life who could have these high level, soulful, high vibe conversations with you that would help you release the fears of judgment, get out of your own way, find alignment, slow down, get out of the head and access the heart? What if that happens? Isn't it way more pleasurable?
Well, it would be, because I think that we live in a stress-filled world, or at least I find myself in a stress-filled world frequently, because it's like, oh, I didn't get enough done, and what about this, and oh, what am I going to do there, and I missed that deadline, and just like setting up the show today, and so I missed this, and I was going to do that, and because the show decided that it was going to take longer than normal to set up, and nothing really happened to my life. I had a few things that I had planned to do that I missed. Did anything really change in my life? No. Oh well.
Oh, well, yes, these two words, Mary, they're so powerful. Oh, well. And imagine bringing the energy of trust with it, like, oh, well, and laughing a little bit with it. It's like, ooh, it's freeing. It's joy filled. Yes. And I would like to add that when we are so stuck, when I notice that I'm so stuck on getting things right or doing all the things on the list, I get to remember that is coming from my human thinking of a timeline. My human thinks that she will die if she doesn't get all of these things on her list. But what about my soul? What about that part of me that has been there? What about that part of me that doesn't have a human timeline? Like, what about how would love look at this list? What would love say? Shifts my energy right away.
Well, and you were mentioning how key it is to be able to trust, I guess, in yourself and in that energy, and not get obsessed with having to know it all. I know for myself, my favorite word is no, because I really, really have to let go and accept that I may not know, and I still may get what I need to get done, because that's my thing, oh, I've got to know more. I've got to know more. I've got to learn more. I've got to, which is why I have degrees and all this kind of stuff, because I think knowing means something.
Thank you. And I used to also believe that and think that. And I have a bachelor's degree in communication studies. And for a long time, I wanted to do an MBA, and a lot energetically shifted within me. And A Course in Miracles is teaching me that knowledge from the head of everything that I've learned in school and in books, it's great. And that is created from the evidence of the past. And knowing at a soul level is the you have it in you piece of when you know the connection to light, when you know what it feels like to be in alignment, when you know what it feels like to act from love and see from the eyes of love and gratitude, that knowledge is worth way more, because it is an energy that has you decide from that place of trust. And by knowing that that is true, whenever I fall off and try to learn all the other things to validate my worth, I remember that I'm falling off track. And yet I get to remember that knowing is a soul thing. When you know God, when you know light and love, God, A Course in Miracles uses the word God in a non-religious way. And I used to be so angry at that word because I wasn't really raised with religion. And now I use this word as light, as positive energy, as source. And knowing that to me is knowledge now.
Well, and I think that as we move into a more spiritual version of ourselves, need to recognize that some of our words were given to us in a time when we saw out of a much smaller box, And I mean, I remember as a little tiny young girl, I went to Sunday school, and I was learning about God, and yet all these wars were happening, and they talked about, there were wars happening here and there and everything else, and people were dying. And I decided that I wanted nothing to do with God. I wouldn't go to church anymore. I wouldn't go to Sunday school. I had no interest whatsoever, because I decided that if God, could let all these wars and people die and all this stuff happen, I didn't want anything to do with that God. Now, that's kind of a weird thought for a little 5-year-old girl, but that's what I decided. And my mother couldn't find anything that would bribe me enough. Not even the ice cream after church would get me to go to church. And it was just like, no, I decided that couldn't be a good God. That couldn't be. And, so I think a lot of people have had that experience of a tiny God. And that's really not what most of us see anymore.
Thank you. Yeah.
But, the energy, and it was just, I had, who knows where that came from, but obviously I had an idea that came out of somewhere that said,
It's the
"Oh,
knowledge, it's the knowing. Oh, wait, this feels out of alignment for me, out of integrity. Something's not fitting quite right. And it's that, yeah, it's another type of knowing. We can call it the intuition, we can call it spirit guidance, we can call it inner guidance, we can call it what feels in alignment to you.
well, I guess I was looking for um, a different version of God even back then as a little
Mm.
tiny child, because um, that couldn't, that couldn't be God. And I'm sure my version of what's God is dramatically different, and like you, it's sort of the universe, the beyond the universe, it's everything. But that's, it's funny thinking back on that. I was just like, no, that's not a good God.
Mm.
Oh dear, silly ideas that kids have, right?
Thanks so much, Mary. This is so much fun.
Well, gosh knows, so much fun we've had, and our half hour has gone screaming by. Can you imagine? So, if you would like to get hold of Claudia-Sam, I've got a link to her Instagram that's in the um, uh,
The show
description
notes.
of this talk that I put up on all the different channels. So wherever you watch this from, you can find that there. And I invite you to reach out if this speaks to you and you'd like to understand more of how you can operate in your day in a more peaceful way.
Thank you so much, Mary. And I would love to share that if you want more of these conversations, I also am the host of the Be Happy Now show. So wherever you listen to your podcasts, you can definitely find episodes and tips and meditations for you to tune into, or even go to my website, claudiasamsoulcoaching.com, and you will find a meditation tab and other beautiful options for you to keep up the work.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And congratulations on your podcast. That's great.
Thank you.
Anyway, thanks very much. And